Little Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time there lived in a small cottage near the woods, a clever little girl whom no one ever called anything other than Little Red Riding Hood. That's because of the red hat she liked to wear so much. One day, her mother asked her to take a basket of food to her sick grandmother and did not forget to remind her to walk only along the beaten forest path that leads directly to the cottage where her grandmother lives, and especially not to go into the woods, where many dangers are hidden. Little Red Riding Hood loved her grandmother very much, so she happily set off with a basket full of goodies towards the forest. The journey along the beaten path passed quickly, and suddenly a butterfly flew in front of her nose. And when she looked after him, she saw a meadow full of field flowers and said to herself that she would pick flowers for her grandmother for joy. And she had already picked the whole bouquet when she noticed that she was in a deep forest. She started to look for a way back when suddenly something dark, hairy and very smelly appeared in front of her. Stray dog. Little Red Riding Hood thinks. Whereabouts? A big black wolf blocked her way. And he said, "I know you. You're Little Red Riding Hood. What are you doing alone in the deep forest?" "I'm lost, Mr. Wolf," whispered Little Red Riding Hood frightenedly. "I picked flowers for my sick grandmother, who lives here somewhere nearby. Do you happen to know her?" "But of course I do," said the wolf. "I know your grandmother and I'll show you a shortcut through the forest to get to her." And he raised his mighty paw towards the thicket. Little Red Riding Hood wanted to thank the wolf for his advice. But I didn't see or hear from the wolf. He was already gone. He ran the shortest way to the cottage where Little Red Riding Hood's sick grandmother lived. The wolf knew her very well. How many times had his grandmother dusted his fur coat with a broom and how she had chased him back into the woods when he tried to steal the chickens from her cottage pen. "I will take revenge," thought the wolf. And he was already making a plan in his head. He was also quite hungry. His stomach was playing so much that even the red-haired squirrels in front of him were quickly disappearing into the crowns of the tall pines. And then the wolf had an idea. "I'll eat Grandma, then I'll swallow Little Red Riding Hood and have the cake she carries in the basket as a dessert." So that's how the bad wolf imagined it. And what do you think? Will the wolf's plan work out? So we have to quickly go to Grandma's cottage. And there the wolf is crouching under the open window, trying to imitate Little Red Riding Hood's slyly sweet voice. "Grandma, it's me, Little Red Riding Hood. I'm bringing you something good." And he didn't even wait for an answer and jumped straight into the room to see his grandmother. And he swallowed the poor grandmother whole. He just spat out his bonnet and glasses. The wolf quickly jumped into bed, put his grandmother's bonnet on his head, put on his glasses and pulled the duvet up to his muzzle. And waited. He was almost asleep when he heard a light knock on the door and a girl's voice called. "Grandma, it's me, Little Red Riding Hood. I'm bringing you a basket full of goodies from your mother. Can I come in?" The wolf cleared his throat and tried to imitate his grandmother's voice. "Come in, I'm waiting for you. Come closer to me and put the basket here on the table. After all, the cake smells like mouth-water." But Little Red Riding Hood was an observant little girl, and there was something about her grandmother that didn't seem right away. "Grandma, why do you have such big ears?" "To hear you better," answered the wolf. "And Grandma, why do you have such big eyes?" asks Little Red Riding Hood. "To see you better." The wolf was not discouraged. "And why do you have such big teeth?" Little Red Riding Hood was frightened. "To eat you better." The wolf couldn't stand it and threw himself on Little Red Riding Hood, and he already had her all in his stomach. And then the overstuffed wolf collapsed on the bed and fell asleep. He snored so much that the pine cones fell from the pines. One fell on the hat of a hunter who was in the forest on his rounds for his duties. He was startled and alerted. And suddenly he heard a strange sound from a distance. So he went to see him to get to the bottom of it and find out if something unfair was going on in his area. He walked to a forest clearing to his grandmother's cottage. The window was wide open, so he looked inside, and what he didn't see. A huge hairy wolf sprawled in the sofa, with a bonnet on his head, his stuffed belly heaving, and something like a big wave rolls over in him. The clever hunter immediately knew what the wolf had done and nimbly ripped open his belly. And he helped his grandmother climb out of it, and Little Red Riding Hood jumped right behind her. They both rejoiced and thanked their savior. Then they brought stones from the garden, and the hunter sewed them into his belly. They then took the sleeping wolf back to the forest on a cart. Then they all quickly returned to the cottage to their grandmother. After all, they had something to celebrate. Grandma made them tea with the fragrant cake. They talked about everything they had experienced and almost forgot about the wolf. In the meantime, he woke up in the forest and got extremely thirsty. And he rolled away to a nearby pool. He leaned over the water and drank greedily, and at that moment the heavy stones in his stomach tipped over and the wolf fell down. And what is the lesson of this short fairy tale? Always listen to your parents' advice and don't stray from the path. And now good night and sweet dreams, my kittens. Tomorrow we will tell a new fairy tale. For example, the one about Budulinek, who rode the fox on his tail, or the one about the brave Bajoj, or some completely different, but certainly very nice fairy tale. Paw and Kiss sent by the cat grandmother.